Are you curious about what the cosmic energy of 2024 will mean for your business? Join my free Cosmic Business Forecast event happening in January, where I'll talk you through the major astrological events you need to know so you can prepare your business to meet the opportunities and challenges of the year head on. You can sign up for free at sophiapalace.com/2024-forecast. Welcome to the Cosmic Business Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Palace, and this podcast is for soulful entrepreneurs who want to harness the cosmic power of astrology to elevate their message, unlock flow, and attract their best clients ever. Join me every week and get excited to discover how you can use the energy of the cosmos to get the business breakthrough you've been waiting for. I realize we haven't even hit December yet when this episode will come out, but I am taking the month off to visit family and to generally decompress after quite a big year. So now seems like an appropriate time to give you this review and to prepare you for what lies ahead in 2024. So first up, 2023 has been quite a year for many of us. And unfortunately, the second half of the year, I believe, has been particularly challenging globally. So just to take you back, let's journey back in time. We started off this year pretty slowly because Mars was retrograde in Gemini, and we were feeling a lot of the themes of 2021, 22 still playing out. We were feeling that energy strongly. We were just coming out of that Mars retrograde energy, which when Mars is retrograde, as I've spoken about before, things can feel a little slow. It's hard to gain traction. It's hard to kind of move forward with projects. Your motivation can feel low. And especially because it was in the sign of Gemini, we might have been feeling a little scattered. Our energy was a little scattered. We didn't start the year off strong. Like we didn't come out of the gate strong, right? And then things changed a lot around that March time. But what's different about 2023, or has been different, is the absence of this Saturn-Uranus square that made the past couple of years really challenging when it came to our own inner authority versus the authorities in charge. So there was a lot of this battle between what's our authority, what's their authority, that kind of thing. Who can tell me what to do? All of that stuff was going on. This year, that kind of eased a little bit. And so 2023 was a lot more about finding our feet again after all of that turbulence and trauma of lockdown and isolation and all of that COVID post-traumatic stress. That's not completely done with us yet because that energy was so big and it has a reverberating effect. So in the first few months of 2023, I think we were just settling in. And then from March, everything started to change quite quickly because we had Mars, Saturn, Pluto, and then Jupiter, all changing signs in really close succession. So this is, I believe, one of the reasons why 2023 has felt a little disjointed and almost like a few different years rolled into one. The energy has really moved or changed so much that we're still feeling rattled by it. Our nervous systems are still feeling out of whack. Like we're not sure what to expect because this energy has shifted so much. Another one of the big features of 2023 was the Venus retrograde in Leo. And that Venus retrograde is quite an extended period of time. That was from June until September, or really October, the start of October. That's a long time to feel in this energy of our planet of love and beauty and connection operating in a way that she doesn't love to be. So it wasn't retrograde for that entire time. Venus was in Leo that entire time, but that retrograde shadow period really lasted, that whole time that Venus was in Leo. So when Venus is retrograde, it can dampen down our fun, our pleasure, our general enjoyment, but it can also dampen down financial things. It can make money feel harder to come by, especially when Venus was in Leo, in this kind of extravagant. I'm not suggesting that all Leos are extravagant. It's the energy has a certain extravagance about it. It wants to be seen, right? So there's this certain validation that we look for when Venus is in Leo. And because Venus was retrograde, we didn't get that. And that can feel difficult. That can feel hard, especially if you have strong Leo energy. You might have felt underappreciated, underseen, underpaid, all of those things. It sounds like 2023 was all terrible. It wasn't. There were some pockets of beauty in there. It certainly wasn't the energy that we had in 2020 to 2022. There was a busting out of that, and it's certainly a shift. And as I've said, a lot of planetary movement at the beginning of the year. And one of the lovely changes that we experienced, in my mind, was that Jupiter moved into Taurus, into that grounded, earthy sign that is all about acknowledging or noticing the simple pleasures. So even though we had the Venus retrograde, we had Jupiter in Taurus, which gave a little bit more sweetness to the simple pleasures of life. But it did also highlight some big money issues. And I'm talking about globally, but probably personally as well. Money, resources, property, material things came into focus with Jupiter in Taurus. And there's definitely a shift in the way people have been talking about money lately, especially in online business. I definitely noticed that there has been this trend away from the big money claims that we used to see in online business. And this is just me tuning into what I've noticed in 2023. People are much more aware of the experience of the client, which is good. People are more aware of kind of grounding that energy down into what's tangible for my clients to achieve when they do my course or join my program or experience coaching with me. And I'm specifically obviously talking about the online coaching and education market. But even in e-commerce, I feel like, and products, there's been a real focus on how is this product or service really tangibly going to improve my life, rather than making these big, bold claims that don't actually connect to our physical experience. I feel like Jupiter in Taurus has really centered us back on creating tangible outcomes for our clients and customers. And that's a good thing, right? Because some of those big audacious claims that were made over the past few years, particularly after the boom in online business, around that 2020, 2021 time, this has kind of allowed people to come back to ground, to those practical things, to those tangible things, to putting things in place for the foundations of business. That is definitely that Jupiter and Taurus energy. So there has been like this settling back in, this foundation in business, which I like. Obviously, I've got a lot of earth energy, so I like that, but I do think it has stabilized people a little bit and has allowed people to really tune into what they are offering in a tangible way. I've also noticed a lot of my clients and my colleagues experiencing this sense that they really need to ground things down in their business. That foundational stuff has become much more important. That systems, processes, team, all of that stuff has become much more important, as well as what is the message here? What am I really selling? All of that stuff has really come into focus. But there is a lot of money or financial stress in the news, in the world. So while there has been a lot of expansion and growth when it comes to things like the property market, that's very Jupiter in Taurus, or material wealth, this expansion has also correlated with inflation and interest rates rising, along with things like skyrocketing rents. This is very Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter is expanding these things. So this is the interesting thing. Some people benefit from that expansion and others won't. So this is a really good thing to know about Jupiter. It can bring opportunity, it can bring growth and expansion, but it can also expand things that we don't necessarily want it to expand, like inflation, like interest rates, like rent. Those are the things that I've certainly noticed while Jupiter has been in Taurus. On the other hand, we have our planet of limitation and contraction and responsibility. That is Saturn. Saturn is now in Pisces, in this watery, boundaryless, compassionate sign of Pisces. So we've definitely felt this shift as well. And I think we see this energy at play, noticing how many people are being called to share what they believe and what's real. And I'm using quotation marks here, air quotes, both in business and in the world in general. So more people taking a stand for their beliefs, more people taking a stand for their spirituality, more people taking a stand for those very Piscean themes. So this Saturn in Pisces energy may have also made our boundaries a little weaker. So even though, Saturn comes in to create boundaries, Saturn is very useful. We can work with Saturn in that way to help us create boundaries and structure. It creates those limits for us. But with Saturn in a boundaryless sign, our boundaries are naturally weaker. So we feel things. We are more in tune with other people's energy. We can't hide from others' pain. We have more empathy. We have more compassion when Saturn is here. So things feel heavier to us. When things in the world are troubled, when things are feeling quite hopeless in some parts of the world, we feel that much more deeply than at other times, because Saturn normally creates those boundaries, but it doesn't create those boundaries as well when it's in Pisces. Now, the other big thing of 2023 has been Pluto. Although it only momentarily moved into Aquarius, it has shown us this power of technology in a very intense way this year. AI technology has taken off. I think you would agree with me here. And even those of us who are hesitant to get on board at the beginning of the year, I think a lot of us were like, oh no, I'm not going to get on there. I'm not going to do that. I mean, I was certainly one of those people. And then a few months later, I was like, nope, this is happening. I've got to get on board. I've got to work with this new tool. I've got to know what's going on. Otherwise, I'm going to get left behind, but also I need to understand the power of this. We need to be aware of the power of technology so that we can not be overwhelmed by it and also not have it derail us. This AI technology has the potential to be so helpful, but also catastrophic in some ways. We need to be on board. We need to understand how it works. We need to take control and take back our own power in some of these areas as well. So, some of us are working with AI in productive ways, and that's awesome. And I love it for the productive things that it allows us to do. I have been working with it a lot, especially in the second half of the year. We are all very aware of the potential for things to go wrong. And I think Pluto in Aquarius has also reminded us of the risks of technology, the risks of things like scams. Those are the kinds of things that Pluto in Aquarius is going to draw our attention to. And I think to some extent Saturn in Pisces is also calling our attention to things like protecting ourselves in a boundaryless space like the online world. So that's been happening. But probably the biggest energy we've been feeling for the past couple of months is that Aries Libra nodal axis, which started to take effect in the middle of the year. So what I'm talking about here is the nodes of the moon shifting signs from the Taurus-Scorpio axis to the Aries-Libra axis. So in a good way, this nodal shift has encouraged us to do things our own way, to pioneer our own authentic approach, rather than just follow along with what others are doing or follow along with what we've been doing. It's also encouraging us to quit the people-pleasing habits that might be really ingrained in us and start asking for what we want. But in a more challenging way, it's really amplified reactivity, war, and divisiveness. And this is one of the things that I was most worried about when I saw this nodal axis coming along, was what does it mean when the south node, the tail of the dragon, we think of the nodes as the dragon. The head of the dragon is the north node. The tail of the dragon is the south node. The head of the dragon is what we are insatiable for, what we need to consume more of. And the tail of the dragon is what we're releasing. It's the excreting part of the dragon, right? And it's also like the spiritualization. There's a spiritualization happening at the south node. But what is it like when the themes of Libra are connected with the south node? And what is it like when the themes of Aries, that warrior energy, and we've got the head of the dragon, the north node, in this warrior energy? A lot of that harmonious Libra energy is being drained away with the south node here. If you want to know more about the nodes and how it works and what these themes are, you can listen to my episode on the nodes with Rihanna Jade. Rihanna has a really beautiful way of explaining the nodal energy that I think you'll be interested in. So if you haven't checked that episode out, go and do that. Personally, 2023 has been a big year for me. I got married for a second time. I had a baby, my third. I was recognized with 2 national awards. And now we're just about to go on a big family holiday, and it's about to be my 40th birthday. 2023 has been this year of really intense change, but also I kind of feel like I'm setting myself up for the second half of my life. My journey over the past few years has been very much about defining my identity, not just as a woman, but also as a business owner, as a mother, as a partner. I've redefined a lot of that. And I'm excited to see what happens for me after the 40th birthday. The 39th year, so being 39, is also in the perfection system. I'm in my 4th house perfection year, which is very much about home and family. And certainly I have had that kind of a year. I've been at home with the baby for most of the year. Well, before that, I was heavily pregnant. So I was at home. There's been much more focus on the children. There's been much more focus on making the home feel good. And it always surprises me how accurate the perfection timing is. That really simple system. It's a very old system of looking at the theme of your year based on the 12 houses. But yeah, it always surprises me how this very simple form of astrology can be so accurate and give you such great insight into the themes that are going to come up for you. In other astrology, I had a lovely, helpful transit of Jupiter in my 1st house, which has been good. And I've definitely felt renewal, like I say, in my identity and, a bit of a boost when probably I would have otherwise been much more tired. I've had Jupiter there giving me a little bit more of a boost, which has been nice. But I'm also experiencing the beginning of my Pluto square Pluto transit. And that is something that I talked about in last week's episode with Georgina Sierra. If you want to check that out, if you are around 40, you will also be experiencing or have just experienced your Pluto square Pluto transit as well. So anywhere from sort of 36 to 46, I would say, to even 50, that Pluto square Pluto transit can be happening. And I've got a rather significant south node activation of my moon and my Mars. So that means a little bit of retreat over the next month or so, which is why it's good timing that I am taking some time off and spending more time with the family and just kind of hunkering down while this transit happens. And in addition to those big visible things that have happened for me this year, I've also been going through a lot of inner reflection and transformation. And not all of it has been pretty. And I want to put this out there because I feel like, we do share this very Instagram friendly version of our lives and our businesses. Yet I feel that there has been a lot of inner turmoil going on for a lot of people for the past few years that doesn't get shared. And I'm not about to share all of it with you right now, but I want to say if you've been going through some stuff, like dealing with your own demons, dealing with your own shadow, dealing with your own triggers, traumas, that kind of thing, I'm there with you. I think a lot of us are there. And I've had to face some fairly dark fears and some anxiety. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that we have to go through the dark to appreciate the light. So if you are there now, I'm sending you a huge hug. Loads of love to you. There's been a lot. There's always a lot going on, right? But I've certainly loved working on the podcast this year. It has been amazing. Obviously, I've had a lot of personal things to be grateful for, joys brought into my life with the baby, with the wedding, with, the family and the friends. It's been a beautiful year on a number of levels. And I've been exploring and learning a completely new modality, which I'm hoping to share with you next year, and consolidating my astrology knowledge as well. So I do feel like a lot has been accomplished this year. And I feel like there's been a lot of preparation for what has to come next. If you, like me, have had Jupiter in your first house, it's not only about giving you opportunities, because if you're a Gemini, you're about to have Jupiter in your first house, or if you're Gemini rising, you're going to have that next year. Having Jupiter in your first house doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the lotto or something amazing is going to happen. There are opportunities that Jupiter presents, but really what Jupiter can do in your first house is prepare you for the next thing, is help you to find your gifts, your personal gifts, and hone or improve or expand those in some way so that you can get ready to share them as Jupiter moves on. So I do feel like that's been a big part of what's been going on for me this year. So I wonder how you're feeling about how 2023 has gone, what has transpired in your life and in your business. I'd love for you to let me know either publicly in a comment or privately in an email or a message. I will read and respond to everyone. And I want to look now to 2024. There are a few things that stand out to me about next year. First of all, Pluto is going to move back into Aquarius in January. So we will feel that power surge forward in terms of technology, in terms of innovation and collective transformation. There is going to be something here when Pluto moves back into Aquarius again. Now, remember that Pluto transits are very long. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. So this isn't going to be like a one and done thing. This is just giving you an idea when it moves back into Aquarius of the themes that are going to come up for you while Pluto is there. And sometimes the ingress, as we say in astrology, like when it crosses into the next sign, that is when you feel that energy the most, because it's got that kind of, it gives the preview of what's to come. Now, Jupiter in Taurus is going to move to conjunct or connect with Uranus in April 2024, which could feel a little spicy. It could feel a little stretchy. It could even feel a little cataclysmic, right? Jupiter, the planet of expansion, connecting with the planet of disruption and change. This could be interesting, right? And they're also in the sign of Taurus, which is all about material things, the earth, financial markets. It could be something to do with the financial markets that we get a sudden change in around that April time. Jupiter's going to move into Gemini then after this connection with Uranus it's going to move into Gemini. And this energy is going to shake things up a bit. We're going to have Jupiter moving from this grounded, earthy sign into a fast thinking, fast talking air sign that loves to communicate and connect. So with Jupiter here, opportunities will come through connections. Opportunities may come through networks or online business or online conversations, digital marketing. That is the kind of stuff that Gemini energy loves. Now, Saturn is going to stay in Pisces in 2024, but it will start moving forward more quickly and it will make a square contact with Jupiter in August. So Jupiter in Gemini, Saturn in Pisces are going to square off in August and again in December. And this can be a little interesting. Saturn can restrict Jupiter, but Jupiter can also bring opportunities to Saturn. So I will be checking back in with that at my forecast event, which I'm going to talk to you about shortly. But that one could be interesting. The nodes are going to stay in the Aries-Libra axis. So the nodes of the moon are going to stay on that Aries-Libra axis for all of 2024. We'll have our eclipses on these points, which will emphasize the themes we've already started to see come up at the end of 2023 in terms of war, in terms of diplomacy or lack thereof, in terms of justice, fairness, authenticity. They're going to be strong for us over the next year. Then at the end of 2024, Mars is going to go retrograde again in Capricorn, which means that could be quite an interesting time for business. We may be resetting a lot of our big plans and goals. This is just a little sneak peek of what's going to happen in 2024 of this astro energy. But I'm going to be expanding on all of this in January when I host a completely free forecast event. So at this forecast event, I'm going to talk you through all of these major astro events that I've just outlined here and more, so you can prepare your business to meet the opportunities and challenges of the year head on. You may know this, but I normally have a fee for my annual forecast or my annual planning event. But this time I want as many people as possible to be armed with this information. I think forewarned is forearmed. And it's not about being afraid of the energy. This is just about being prepared so that you can move forward with confidence and clarity. That's what I love about astrology. It really does give us that foundational awareness and clarity for our next steps. It's not going to give us all of the answers, but it is going to help us find the way. So I would love to see you at my free business forecast event. You can sign up for free at sophiapalace.com/2024-forecast. That link will also be in the show notes, but I'm keeping it super simple. It's just my website, sophiapalace.com/2024-forecast. This event will be live on January 19th. That's a Friday, the 19th of January, 2024. That's Australian time. But if you can't be there live, don't worry. If you register, you'll have free access to the replay. So I am sending you so much love as we wind down 2023. May we all find the compassion we need for each other, hug our loved ones all a little tighter wherever we can. Thank you so much for listening and giving me your feedback on the episodes. I genuinely love creating this content every week, and I will be back with some great new stuff in 2024. In the meantime, my team has recast a couple of my most popular episodes for you to listen to over the next couple of weeks. While I'm away, I hope you are also able to have a relaxing break, and I will see you next year. Thanks for joining me on the Cosmic Business Breakthrough. If you'd like to learn more about what I do, head to sophiapalace.com or follow me at Sophia Palace over on Instagram. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'd love for you to take a moment and review the show if you found it helpful and share it with a few friends. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.